Assalamu alaikum. Hopefully now everyone can see us and hear us a bit better. Uh, we're just finishing up a few things right now so we can get that going. Again, we apologize. This can get very finicky sometimes. For everyone that's on the chat, can we get some thumbs up if you can hear us clearly and you can see us clearly? I saw a thumbs up. Okay. Hopefully this should be better. I'm assuming the sound is coming in a bit smoother now. All right, great. We got a thumbs up from Sheikh Nu'man. So we're good. A little bit of humor. It's okay to have technical difficulties. Listen, you think Ramadan's going to be perfect? We're going to have tough days. We're going to have tough times. You're going to have days where life's going to be difficult. So let's just get back right on it and deal with the things that break the fast.
Okay, so continuing from where we left off. So the slide we just covered was who must fast, and just a quick recap in case there was some things lost in translation as we were transitioning between the different live streams, and while there was technical difficulties, and I know some people said that the sound was cutting out. So just to review this slide one more time, who must fast, i.e. who is fasting obligatory upon? And we said that each and every single one of these 5 categories must be present for a person to have the obligation to fast. If even a single one of these categories is missing, then a person is not obligated to fast. Firstly, we said that the person must be what Islam legally considers to be an adult. For women, it's the age when they get their first menstrual cycle. For men, it's when they have a wet dream. Secondly, the person must be sane. They must have a proper mental ability and capacity to know what's going on around them, to know what's the difference between right and wrong. Residents, they must be either staying at their home, or even if they are at a place other than their home, if they are traveling somewhere, if they are staying in that locality for 15 days or more, they are technically considered to be a resident. Fourthly, they must be free from illness. They must have be free from any illness that will worsen if they fast, meaning they have to have the appropriate health and they have to have the appropriate physical ability to fast. And included in the category of illness is also pregnant or nursing women if there is a fear for the mother or child. And lastly, again, we're just going through this a little bit quickly just to review, that they must be free from any chronic inability, something that is an ongoing condition that prevents them from fasting. So all of these 5 conditions must be fulfilled for a person to have the obligation to fast. If even a single one of them is missing, then that individual does not have to fast. Fasting is exempted for them. So next we move on to what I am going to call fast breakers. So there are 3 main categories, and we will go through each category in detail. The first category is things that break the fast and require both expiation and makeup. And we will discuss in detail what each of those things means. The second category are things that break the fast and require a makeup only. And the third category are things that do not even break the fast at all. So again, the first category, it breaks the fast. It requires expiation and makeup. The second category, it breaks the fast and requires makeup only. And the third category, it does not even break the fast at all. So the first category are things that break the fast and they require both an expiation and makeup. So what is this category? What are these things? It is doing any of the following intentionally or on purpose. And what this means, to do something intentionally or to do something on purpose means that you are fully conscious and cognizant that you are fasting and you know that this action will break your fast. So you are fully mentally aware that one, you are fasting, and two, that what you are about to do will break your fast. This is something that we should all definitely stay away from. We don't want to fall into this category where we are fasting and we know we're fasting and we intentionally do something to break the fast. This is something that has the utmost level of sanction. So either eating any amount of normal food items, meaning ingesting anything that is normally considered food, burgers, biryani, pizza, sushi, etc., any normal food item. Drinking any amount of normal drink items, even if it's just a sip of water, juice, soda, etc. And lastly, any type of intercourse, whether it is normal intercourse or through the back, which is considered haram to begin with. So doing any one of these three actions while you are fully cognizant that you are fasting and with the awareness that the action will break the fast, any one of these will require both expiation and makeup. So what is expiation? What is called in Arabic kafara? So the words kafara and fidya oftentimes get mixed up. So kafara is completely separate and different from fidya. So what is kafara? What is expiation? Expiation is something that an individual must do to recompense themselves and to correct the wrong that they did. Because obviously, in the month of Ramadan, if you're fasting and you know you're fasting and you intentionally, on purpose, do something to break your fast, this is considered to be very, very sinful. It's something that would displease Allah to a very high extent. And so, because that a person or an individual, if they do something this egregious, this terrible, then there must be some way to recompense themselves and to correct the wrong that they did. So in order to correct the wrong that they did, there are three options, and these options must be taken in the order of possibility. Meaning you must go with the first option. If it's impossible, you go with the second. If it's impossible, you go with the third. The first option is to free a slave, and this is something that is impossible for all of us because we don't have that in our modern context. So this would be impossible to do. So one would move to the second category, which is fasting for 60 consecutive days. 60 consecutive days, breaking fast in the middle for suhoor and iftar, not 60 days straight. For a woman on her period, those days can be skipped and made up later. And again, if someone is able to fast for 60 days consecutively, physically, mentally, they must do so. The third category, which applies to only people that are physically incapable or mentally incapable of fasting for 60 consecutive days, then the last absolute thing, last category, is to feed 60 poor people with 2 full meals. And the modern calculation for that is about $13 per meal. And one would check with their local imam. So for the entire, for one to do this, it would be around $1,500. So again, only if someone is genuinely unable to fast for 60 consecutive days, then they would go with this third option. Last point on kafara that I wanted to mention is that expiation is required only for fasts broken during the month of Ramadan. If a person is fasting on the day of Arafah, if a person is fasting on Ashura, if a person is fasting on a Monday or Thursday or any other nafil fast outside of the month of Ramadan, and they intentionally, consciously break their fast, yes, it is sinful and one would be liable and deserving of sin, but they do not have to do this expiation, fasting for 60 days straight or for feeding 60 poor people with 2 full meals. Expiation is only for this intentional breaking of fast during Ramadan.
So one side thing to that is, even if someone is making up a missed fast from Ramadan outside of Ramadan, and for whatever reason they choose to break it, then that would not constitute expiation, even though it's a fast for Ramadan. But if it's outside of Ramadan, then that would not fall under this category.
Okay, so the first category that we talked about were things that what one does breaks the fast, requires expiation, and requires makeup. Now we move to our second category, which is things that break the fast and require a makeup only. They do not require expiation. So in this category, these are just some examples. We have intentional masturbation, we have ejaculation from or climaxing from foreplay, not from looking, thinking, sleeping, basically anything that is climax due to physical contact, not through mental phenomena. Intentionally vomiting a mouthful, and this means that it's so much that it comes out of your mouth. It's not something that just stays in your throat and goes back down, but it is so much that it comes out. Eating or drinking non-food items. All right, this is something that's given more as a hypothetical point, just to clarify the methodology that we're bringing across here. So if someone were to eat or drink, hypothetically, any non-food item, they were to ingest rocks or grass or gasoline or soap, all of these things that you technically can eat and drink them, but they're not normal food items. They're not like the category we talked about before, the biryani, the burgers, etc. Smoking, whether it's cigarettes, hookah, etc. This is something that would break the fast and require makeup. Accidentally doing anything that breaks the fast. So doing something on accident. This means that a person is fully cognizant and aware of the fact that they are fasting, but they accidentally, not on purpose, accidentally do something to break their fast. So for example, if someone they know they're fasting, they're saying, I'm fasting and I want to get the most out of my fast, so I'm going to do wudu for dhuhr and I'm going to pray on time. They know they're fasting, they go to the bathroom, they start doing wudu, and then while doing wudu, they accidentally swallow some water. So this was an accident. They didn't mean to do it, but at the same time, they knew they were fasting. So this would break the fast and require makeup only. It wasn't a complete accident, so they don't have to do any kafara, but it would break the fast and they would need to make it up. A point on doing something accidentally. Some scholars say that accidentally doing any of the above will not break the fast. It will not break the fast. So if someone, the example we just gave, if they are cognizant of the fact that they're fasting, they go to the bathroom to do wudu and they accidentally swallow water, or they accidentally, smoke, or they accidentally do any of these other things, then that will not be considered to break the fast. But the opinion that we're going with on this slide is that accidentally doing any one of these items or anything that breaks the fast would in fact break the fast and require makeup only. So we move to our fundamental principle number 1, right? We talked about the first two categories and it might get confusing. How do we distinguish between those two? The first category was expiation plus makeup, and the second category is makeup only. How do we distinguish between those two different categories? So the way we do so is to first realize and understand that every single action has two qualities. It has two separate characteristics. It has a physical quality and it has a meaning or a purpose quality. So expiation plus makeup, category number 1, is required for those actions that are done intentionally with both the physical and the meaning quality. So let's look at an example. Eating normal food items. Again, normal food items means like a burger or biryani. So there's a physical aspect of taking food, putting it in your mouth, chewing it, and swallowing it. That is the physical aspect of eating. The meaning or the purpose behind it is to get nutrition. All right, that is the meaning behind eating. And so that is why intentionally eating normal food items requires both expiation plus makeup. Makeup only, category number 2, those are required only for those actions that are done intentionally with either the physical or the meaning quality. So if we look at another example, eating non-food items, remember, we talked about rocks, we talked about grass, gasoline, soap, right? There is the physical aspect, which is present. The physical aspect is the same as the previous example. You're taking something, you're putting it in your mouth, you're chewing it, and you're swallowing it. However, there's no meaning to eating rocks, right? They're not getting any nutrition. It's not a normal, customary food item. So since only the meaning aspect is there, since only the physical aspect is there and the meaning aspect is not there, intentionally eating non-food items requires a makeup only. It requires makeup only. It does not require expiation. The second example, just to help clarify, if we look at masturbation, there is no physical aspect of intercourse. Intercourse is something that normally breaks the fast. However, when someone is by themselves, there's no physical aspect of intercourse taking place. However, the meaning, the purpose of fulfilling one's desire of climax is still there. And so that is why intentional masturbation requires only makeup, not expiation, because there's no physical aspect of intercourse present. So again, quick recap of our fundamental principle number 1. How do I know whether something is in category 1 or category 2? Category 1 items are when something fulfills and satisfies both the physical and meaning aspect of an action. For category 2, it fulfills either the physical or the meaning. And that brings us to category 3, things that do not break the fast, right? These are just some miscellaneous examples that people might get confused on. These are things that are often asked questions for. So these are just some examples of things that do not break the fast at all. So tasting or chewing one's food. This is something that if someone must do so for feeding their children or whatnot, it does not break the fast. If it is done for absolutely no reason, then it is disliked. If you just are tasting food because you want to taste food, it will not break your fast, but it is disliked to do so. If you must taste or chew food, for example, for feeding a child, it is not disliked to do so. You can go ahead and do that. And that will not break the fast. Kissing one's spouse. If one is confident that a kiss or a peck will not lead to anything further than that, then doing that will not break the fast. However, if one does not feel confident in their ability to kiss their spouse and that not leading to something further, then it will be considered dislike. But if one is confident that it won't lead to something further, then a kiss to one's spouse will not break the fast. Ear, eye, and nose drops. Anything that is dropped into the eyes, ears, or nose, medication, anything like that, those do not break the fast. Okay, so medications in the eyes, ears, and nose through a drop form does not break the fast. Next, medical injections, whether they are IV or IM. So insulin shots for diabetic individuals, any type of medication, any type of shot that is given in like an injection form through IV or IM, these do not break the fast. These do not break the fast. Next, unintentionally inhaling smoke or dust. So we talked about how inhaling, cigarette smoke or hookah breaks one's fast, but unintentionally inhaling smoke or dust, if you're walking by someone else who is smoking and you unintentionally breathe some of it in, then that will not break the fast. Asthma inhalers, even within the Hanafi school, there is difference of opinion on this one. And that's, one thing I didn't get to mention as we begin the slide. Almost every single one of these miscellaneous examples has a difference of opinion. So we're just giving some general examples, and sometimes even within the Hanafi school, there will be difference of opinion as well. So asthma inhalers, the more lenient opinion is that they do not break the fast. So if an individual has asthma and the only thing preventing them from fasting is that they will have to use an inhaler throughout the day, then they should go with the opinion that asthma inhalers do not break the fast, and it would be perfectly fine for them to use their asthma inhaler as they are fasting, because there is a legitimate opinion out there that asthma inhalers do not break the fast. Brushing teeth with toothpaste does not break the fast. However, one should be very cautious and very careful that they do not swallow any of the water or any of the toothpaste or anything like that. So brushing teeth with toothpaste, using minted floss, using mouthwash, these are all things that do not break the fast. Swallowing saliva, your own saliva, taking a shower, swimming in the pool or ocean. Some people might think that doing these actions, if you have the water entering your pores and all that kind of stuff, these do not break the fast at all. Donating blood or getting cupping done, hijama. these are probably not smart to do during Ramadan because you will probably get lightheaded or dizzy, but it will not break the fast. If you do choose to donate blood, may Allah reward you, but yes, your fast will not break because of that action. Unintentionally vomiting any amount, right? The previous category we talked about, if you make yourself vomit, that will break your fast. If you put your finger in your throat. However, if you're just sitting around and, or if you're feeling sick and you unintentionally vomit out of nowhere, you had nothing to do with it, but you unintentionally vomit any amount, whether it's a drop or whether it's buckets, this would be something that does not break the fast. All right, forgetfully doing anything that breaks the fast. This one will require a little bit of explanation. So, there are 3 states of mind when it comes to fasting. One is doing something intentionally or on purpose, and that was something that was in category 1, that requires expiation. The second category, in category 2, was doing something accidentally, meaning you knew you were fasting and you did something on accident. The third category is when you didn't even remember you were fasting. You totally forgot and you had no idea. This will not break the fast. So if you wake up for suhoor in the morning, you go back to sleep, and when you wake up at 9 a.m. and you treat it just like another day because you're so used to your schedule of going to the kitchen, making a cup of coffee, having breakfast, all of those things, and by the time you finish your coffee and you're in the middle of your cereal and you go, oh my gosh, I totally forgot I'm fasting, right? That none of those things will have broken the fast. As long as you stop right there as soon as you remember, whatever you ate before, it's fine. As long as you did it forgetfully, meaning you had no idea, you totally forgot. If you do something forgetfully, that does not break the fast. It does not require a makeup. Swallowing food left in one's teeth, which is less than a morsel, meaning if you have some food left in your teeth from suhoor or whatever and you swallow it during fajr, then that does not break the fast either. And lastly, and again, this is just a miscellaneous list, it's not exhaustive. Lastly, being in a state of janaba, major ritual impurity, when fajr enters, right? So for example, this applies to menstruating women. If someone was on their cycle, if someone was on their period and their period ends before fajr comes in, but they did not get a chance to take a shower until after fajr comes in, that does not break the fast. Just because they entered fajr time while they haven't taken a shower yet, they can still fast that day. They can still have that fast count, meaning they don't have to make it up, nothing like that. Similarly, if a spouse has intimacy the night before and they wake up, they finish their intimacy before fajr comes in, but they don't get a chance to take a shower until after fajr comes in, same thing. It does not break the fast. You do not need to be in a state of purity to enter the fast. Or for men who have wet dreams at any time, if they take a nap in the middle of the day and they have a wet dream, that wet dream will not break their fast either. So the state of janaba, major ritual impurity, which comes through intimacy, through being on one's period, to experience a wet dream, none of these things are things that break the fast altogether. And this brings us to our fundamental principle number 2. How do we tell what does and what does not break the fast? So, anything that has a perceptible body, meaning anything that is visible, anything that's tangible, anything that has a substance, if that enters the body cavity through a normal passageway, that would be considered to break the fast. And normal passageways are considered the mouth and the backside. So this is why IVs, injections, insulin shots, these don't break the fast. Yes, they provide medication. They provide nutrition. They provide, whatever a person might need to stay, not get hungry or whatever it might be. Even though these things provide some sort of nutrition to a person, it does not break the fast because it is not entering the mouth or backside, and it is entering into their body cavity. It's something that simply goes, through their skin into their bloodstream. Similarly, this is why taking a hot shower with a lot of water vapor everywhere doesn't break one's fast. You can be taking a shower, your pores are all opened up, you have water enter into your pores. This does not break the fast as well, again, because it is not something that is entering your body cavity through a normal passageway. And then secondly, sexual intercourse is something that would also break the fast. So this, if you remember this fundamental principle, this can help you determine whether or not something breaks a person's fast. I know some people have questions on, especially when it comes to shots, whether those break one's fast. Ask yourself, is a shot something that enters my body cavity through a normal passageway? It's not, because it does not enter your body cavity, meaning your intestine system, your stomach, anything that's in your torso or your abdomen area. It does not enter your body cavity. It enters your bloodstream, and it also doesn't enter through your mouth or backside. It enters through your skin and your veins, right? So shots are a common question. Some people who have retainers for their teeth, those also do not break the fast because you're not swallowing anything. So if you remember this fundamental principle, this can help you answer a lot of your own questions during the month of Ramadan on whether something does or does not break your fast. And again, these two things, any perceptible body entering the body cavity through a normal passageway plus sexual intercourse, these break the fast only if they are done either on purpose or accidentally. Either on purpose or accidentally. If it's done forgetfully, it simply does not break the fast. Lastly, we have 7 categories of people validly exempted from fasting. So in the beginning, we talked about who is fasting obligated upon. Who must fast? Who are those people that fasting is mandated upon them? This slide is talking about who are those people that do not have to fast. Who are those people that are validly exempted from fasting? So it is basically the opposite of everything on that other slide. The other slide was talking about being mature, being sane, etc. This is the opposite of all of those things. So first of all, a traveler. And a traveler, these are people that are validly exempted from fasting. They can choose whether or not they want to fast, but they absolutely do not have to do so. And this is as long as they leave their home, they leave their locality before Fajr starts, before Fajr enters, meaning before the fast starts. So say, for example, that Fajr comes in at 4:50 a.m. For a person to not have to fast that day, for a person to be exempted from fasting that day, their journey must begin before 4:50 a.m. If their journey begins at 11 a.m., then they must fast that day and they must continue fasting that day, even though they will be traveling on that day itself. So a traveler is exempted from fasting only if their travel begins before Fajr starts on that day. Secondly, a sick person who fears that their sickness will worsen by fasting, they are also exempted from fasting. They do not have to do so. A pregnant or nursing woman who fears for themselves or their baby if they were to fast. Again, this is based either on personal experience, if someone has gone through this before and they know that it was something that was detrimental to them or their baby, or if it's based on the opinion of a Muslim doctor that thinks that it's not the best idea for them to fast, they are completely exempted from fasting. Fourthly, a person with extremely severe hunger and thirst, so much so that it may lead to sickness or death. So this, for example, if you have people that are in many parts of the world that are quote unquote fasting, but they really haven't had suhoor, they haven't had iftar, they've been not eating anything for, over 24 hours. And when they finally find food, it may be in the middle of the day, and they may think that if I don't have this food right now, I'm going to get very sick or I may even die. In that case, it is completely permissible for them to break their fast and eat that food once they obtain it. Fifthly, a person who was coerced or forced to break their fast. Again, this is something that unfortunately happens in other parts of the world. If people are forced or coerced or threatened with physical harm, then they are also allowed to break their fast. Sixthly, a woman on her period or on her postnatal bleeding, she is also completely exempted from fasting, and it is actually forbidden for her to fast. And seventhly, a person who is physically unable to fast, meaning they have that chronic disability. They are old. They have a constant need for medication. They are physically unable to fast. They are also exempted from fasting. So one thing to note, every single one of these categories, from 1 through 6, require a makeup. Meaning if a person who is traveling misses fasts during Ramadan, that's perfectly fine. They're exempted. But later on, they must make up whatever days they missed. Similar for a sick person, pregnant woman, hungry person, forced person, or a woman on her period. They are completely exempted from fasting in the month of Ramadan, but once the month of Ramadan is over, they must make up the fasts that they missed. This does not apply to the 7th category, a person who is physically unable to fast. Because if they're physically unable to fast and they have this chronic inability, they will never be able to fast, right? So they are not required to make up their fasts. Only categories 1 through 6 must make up the fast. Category 7 does not have to make up their fast.
So we have a few questions geared up here. We will quickly address these few questions. And again, if anyone has any questions, please feel free to answer these as we go on. So the first question was asked about using toothpaste while fasting. About using toothpaste while fasting. And if we look back and think to the slide about what doesn't break our fast, we saw that we mentioned brushing our teeth, using toothpaste, and things of that nature. And so if we ask that question, did something enter into my body from a normal passageway? Right, so toothpaste, yes, it's in a normal passageway, which is our mouth, but it did not enter our actual body cavity. It didn't go down our throat. Now, if someone used too much toothpaste or had too much liquid in their mouth and they accidentally swallowed a little bit, then that would be problematic and could possibly break the fast. However, if someone is fully cautious and aware, hey, I'm putting toothpaste on my toothbrush, I'm fasting, so I'm only going to be using a little bit, then in that case, it would not break the fast because there was no actual swallowing or consumption or entrance of a substance into one's body.
And again, you can reference the slide that says does not break. We will be sharing these slides, inshallah, as well. The slide that says category 3 does not break in this list is brushing teeth with toothpaste.
And we will be sending this presentation out after if people ask. Now, the next question is about using medicated throat spray as well as the possibility of gargling with salt water. So I'll address the salt water first. So in the case where you're gargling with salt water or any kind of water, any kind of liquid, and that is in your mouth and in your throat, the question now goes back to, is it a normal passageway? So the answer is yes, it's a normal passageway because it's our mouth. Now the question is, did it actually enter into my body cavity? Now, in the case of someone gargling salt water, if that remains in the upper part of the throat and doesn't actually go down one's esophagus, if it doesn't go down one's esophagus, then that has not entered your body cavity and thus would not break the fast. And the same thing would apply to a medicated throat spray. If it goes to a part of the body where it's still, you would say, before your esophagus and before your body cavity, then that would not break the fast. However, if that spray has to go a bit deeper and has to go further down the throat or the esophagus.
Essentially, if the spray is something you swallow, then it would break the fast. But if it's something that you just spray in your mouth and it gets stuck to the back of your throat or whatever, and you don't swallow it per se, that would not break the fast. But if it's something that you spray in your mouth and you have to swallow it, it must go down your throat, then it would break the fast.
That's all the questions we have now. But again, we are constantly looking at the comment section to see if there's any questions. So we have a few more slides before we end on the section of fasting. And so we'll wrap this up and then we'll open it up for question and answer again. And then we'll get into more of the praying part of Taraweeh and things like that. So now the topic to be addressed is changing states. changing states, meaning if someone wasn't fasting before and now there's a circumstance wherein they have to be fasting, or the exact opposite. And so we have 5 scenarios here on the slide, and number 1 is a separate category, and 2 through 5 are a separate category. So let's talk about number 1 first. In circumstance number 1, someone is fasting, someone woke up in the morning fasting, someone had an intention to fast, and then for whatever reason they accidentally broke their fast, or on purpose broke their fast, or was forced to break their fast. Now, as we said before, their fast is broken. Their fast is broken. But the question is, do they have to continue to fast? We've already addressed that, yes, they would have to do makeup because they broke the fast, so a makeup is required. But now the thing is, do they have to maintain the fast for the rest of the day? Right? Let's say, they woke up and they accidentally, swallowed water while making wudu at, 12 at noon. Do they have to continue the fast? And the answer to that is yes, they have to continue the fast. And if you look later, they have to refrain from all things that invalidate the fast and make up the fast up at a later date. That is because the sanctity of the fast, the honor of the fast is so great that even if one broke the fast, they should still act like they are fasting and adhere to the rules of the fast. Now, for the rest of the 4, in the case someone becomes a resident after traveling. So someone was traveling and they land back in their hometown at 11 a.m. So they weren't fasting before, but now that they are a resident, their excuse to be exempt from fasting is now gone. So for the remainder of the day, they should act like they are fasting. They still have to make that day up if they didn't start the fast. But because they are a resident, then they should maintain the sanctity of the fast and act like they're fasting. Category number 3, a woman who ends her postnatal bleeding or her period. So you have a woman who was on her period for a few days, and then let's say at 3 p.m. her period ends, her cycle ends, her hayd, it ends. So at that point, she should stop eating and drinking and act like she is fasting for the rest of the day and refrain from food and drink. Yes, she will have to make up that day still, but she should refrain from eating and drinking for the rest of the day. Category 4 and 5 are kind of similar, when a person was not Muslim before or not an adult before, and they choose to enter into Islam, or they choose to become, or they become an adult in the middle of the day. In this circumstance, they should act like they are fasting for the rest of the day, although that day does not become obligatory upon them. And this is probably a bit uncommon for most of us. The more common ones would be number 2 and number 3. So if you're traveling, you come back home and you weren't fasting, then you should act like you're fasting for the rest of the day. And the third category, if you are a woman whose period ends in the middle of the day, then once your period ends, then you should act like you're fasting for the rest of the day. On the flip side, however, if your period starts in the middle of the day, meaning you woke up for suhoor, you had your breakfast in the morning, you prayed fajr even, but then maybe around dhuhr or asr time, your period starts. Then now your fast is broken, you have to make up that day, but because your fast is totally broken, you're now able to eat and drink. However, please be courteous of the people around you. Do not just be eating and drinking in front of the other people in the household who may not be fasting.
And just one point that I wanted to mention with this is that I know it's common or popular in a lot of cultures, the idea that once a woman gets her period in the middle of the day, then she must continue fasting for the rest of the day. So this does not apply at all. Once a woman gets her period in the middle of the day, the fast is broken immediately, and they can eat or drink immediately. They don't have to wait until Maghrib comes in to start eating or drinking. Once the fast is broken for a woman on her period, then it's broken, and they can do normal things as they normally would, no matter what time their period comes in.
And before we move to the next slide, there was a question about kafara, right? We mentioned if someone purposefully and intentionally breaks the fast, then in that case, they would have to do kafara, wherein they would have to fast all 60 days. But what happens if they do that? What happens if they do that to what happens if they do that twice. Now, only one kafara will ever be applicable. So if someone, voluntarily, purposefully broke their fast, only 160 days would be required, not 120 or not 180 or anything like that, just the 60. We have 3 more slides in this section of fasting. And so to finish it off, we are now going to talk about the highly recommended actions. The highly recommended actions of what one should do while they are fasting. And so number 1 is having suhoor, having sehri, having breakfast, even if it's a sip of water. Even if, Fajr comes in at, 4:50 and you wake up at, 4:59 and you just take a quick sip of water, that will suffice. And we should be doing that, and it's a highly, highly, highly emphasized sunnah. And the Prophet ﷺ told us that there is barakah, there is blessing, and there is increase in having suhoor and having sehri. Number 2 would be delaying suhoor until right before Fajr, obviously being certain that Fajr hasn't entered yet. So like I said, if we know Fajr enters at 4:50 a.m., that doesn't mean that we should be eating suhoor at 3 a.m. And that also doesn't mean you should be eating suhoor at 30 seconds before. Give yourself a good buffer. Eat maybe in the 10, 15, 20 minutes before Fajr comes in. Don't eat too early, and don't eat right on the borderline time. And number 3, hastening iftar. Hastening iftar, meaning right when Maghrib comes in and you're sure that Maghrib is in, break your fast and open your fast. The Prophet ﷺ said that when Maghrib has entered, when the sun has set, then a believer's fast has ended. Meaning, yes, we should be cautious of, hey, did the time come in? And verify that the time has come in. But we shouldn't be so excessive that, okay, I'm going to wait 3 extra minutes. No, if we are sure the time has entered for Maghrib, then we should go ahead and break the fast.
Just to address one of the questions that was asked, someone asked, if the travel starts during the day, I was told to have suhoor, but you can break the fast once you leave the boundaries of your city. So when it comes to the exemption of travelers, this applies only if the travel begins before Fajr. So if a person, again, if their travel begins any time after Fajr, they are not exempted from fasting. So a person cannot have suhoor and then break the fast later in the day when their travel starts. The travel must begin before Fajr comes in for them to have this exemption. So if a person is fasting on a certain day and their traveling begins any time after Fajr comes in, then they must fast that day. They are not exempted from traveling. So again, for example, if Fajr comes in at 4:50 a.m., if their travel begins any time after 4:50 a.m., they must fast the entire day. They do not fast from 4:50 until the traveling begins at, say 11 a.m., for example. They must fast the entire day. And then the next day, if they're still traveling, then they can be exempted. But this would not apply the situation that was mentioned in the comment, for a person to have suhoor but then break the fast once they leave the boundaries of the city. This is incorrect. The leaving the boundaries of the city must happen before Fajr even comes in.
And again, this is one of those things wherein there is difference of opinion amongst the scholars. So, if you're someone who is going to take an 18-hour flight, and your fast would end up being, you're taking an 18-hour flight going westbound, and your fast would end up being, over 20 hours. That is something you can consult with a local scholar or imam, and they can help you make that decision. This is more of a general rule. But like I said, there is going to be difference of opinion.
Yeah, exactly. This is a general rule. If there's going to be a situation where your travel is in extenuating circumstances where it would make your fast like crazy difficult or very different from a normal fast, then that would be more of a case-by-case basis. There's another question. What if a woman gets menstruation a few minutes before Maghrib? So if a woman gets her menstruation, her period, right before Maghrib comes in, then unfortunately, they will still have to make that fast up, even though it's a few minutes before Maghrib. And this is something that women should be cognizant of, that they shouldn't try to, if they can tell that they got their period before Maghrib comes in, they shouldn't just wait until Maghrib comes in, break their fast, and then afterwards say, oh, I got my period. If their period happens before Maghrib comes in, then they should just default and say, I got my period, and the fast is incomplete, so they will still have to make up that day.
These are great questions. Keep them coming. But to wrap up this section, now the question is, how do I make up fasts? For example, if someone was on their period, or if someone was sick, or if someone was traveling, they now have fasts that they have to make up. How do they go about making up those days? And so, as we mentioned earlier, the intention for a make-up fast must be made before Fajr enters on that day. So no one should wake up, at 11 a.m., 3 months from now and be like, hey, I haven't eaten or drinking anything yet. Actually, I'm just going to fast. No, rather for make-up fast for Ramadan, the intention should be made before Fajr comes in. And it is highly, highly, highly advisable to make up the fasts before the following Ramadan. So within the next 12 months to make up those fasts. And according to many scholars, it actually has to be done before the following Ramadan. Now, the next topic is, can I double stack? Right? There's the 6 days of Shawwal. We have Ashura. We have Arafah. We have Mondays and Thursdays. We have the 3 white days of every month. Can I make up my missed fast of Ramadan and stack it with those days? And the short answer to that is yes. Although there is some difference of opinion for Hanafis on the 6 days of Shawwal, but overall we can say yes, that if you want to stack your makeup fast for Ramadan and any other sunnah or recommended day to fast, by all means go ahead and do so, and you will get the reward of your fard fast, and you will get the reward for fulfilling the sunnah for that day. And the last section will be redemption. Now, fidya. And fidya is for those people that are not able to fast and will not be able to fast. So again, this isn't for someone who is traveling or someone who is on their period or someone who is maybe, pregnant. This is for the scenario where someone is old, they have a chronic disease, they're in constant need of medication, and there doesn't seem like there is any hope of them being able to fast at any point later in their life. So in this circumstance, a person would pay at least $13 for every missed fast that they were not able to make up. And you can check with your local imam for the exact amount. So whatever that amount is, $13 for every day. And you can write a check and label the envelope with fidya. So that way the masjid knows what that money is for. Now the question arises, what if someone, they were diagnosed with something, but alhamdulillah, through the grace of God, they were now able to fast again? So in that case, according to the Hanafis, you would still have to make up those fasts even if you paid the fidya. However, according to other scholars, if it was already paid, you would not have to make it up. And again, lastly, this slide applies to those people who will never be able to fast, and it's likely that they won't be able to fast in the future due to physical or medical constraints in the future.
There's another question here. Can we fast the 6th of Shawwal and then do the makeup fast? Yes, that is perfectly fine. If you have qada fasts from Ramadan due on you, you do not have to finish those before doing any sunnah fasts. So you can do your 6th of Shawwal, you can do your Monday, Thursdays, you can do any nafil fast before you do your makeup fast of Ramadan. That is perfectly fine.
Should we give them the quiz or the test?
Yeah.
Okay, so we have a test for everyone, just so we can kind of go through some scenarios. I know the live stream is always going to have a delay in what we say and what you see, but let's try to do our best to be able to get this going where we can actually read the questions and you all can answer the questions. So let's just bring it up. I'll give you a delay so that everyone can get caught up with what we see. Also, some ones are kind of, fun and jokey. We can lighten up the mood a little bit. But once we see it on the live stream, then we'll go ahead and jump to the question. So question number 1. These are all hypothetical scenarios. If you want to type them in the chat, There are three answers for each question. The fast is not broken, the fast is broken and needs makeup, qada, or the fast is broken and needs expiation. So these are the three scenarios. You can just type in the chat A, B, or C. A for not broken, B for just one makeup qada, or C for the 60 days kafara. So question number one, Hamza is fasting today. He woke up for work, he brushed his teeth with toothpaste, but he got some toothpaste in the eye, man. I don't know what he's doing. He squirted the tube and it went right into his eye, but then he put eye drops in his eye so that his eye doesn't burn with toothpaste. A, is his fast not broken? B, is his fast broken but needs qada? Or C, is his fast so broken and it needs expiation?
So hopefully you can get some time to, I think we'll pick it up just a little bit. Okay, we got one answer so far, and that is the
correct answer.
Correct answer.
Good job. The fast is not broken. Yes, the person brushed their teeth with toothpaste, but they did not swallow it. And they got toothpaste in their eye, but the eye is not a normal passageway to the body. So that doesn't break the fast, nor will the eye drops break the fast either. So great job, everyone. Wow, we got a lot of A's. Good job.
Very good.
All right, the next one. Now yeah, I'll let you take it.
All right, so calm down. All right, so number 2. Fatima forgot she was fasting while eating San Giovanni's barbecue chicken with pepperoni pizza. Her mom reminded her that she's supposed to be fasting. Fatima said, shrugged it off, and kept eating the delicious pizza because, come on, San Gio's. So, in this situation, she forgot she was fasting while she was eating pizza. And then someone came and reminded her, hey, you're supposed to be fasting. In response, she said, whatever, and kept on eating. So, either is the fast not broken? Is it broken and needs makeup? Or is it broken and needs makeup plus expiation? A, B, or C? Very good. Good job. So the fast is broken and it needs expiation as well as makeup. So I see that one person put B. The reason why B is incorrect is because Fatima, after her mother came to her and told her, you are fasting, instead of stopping to eat, she kept on eating. She said, whatever, and then kept on eating. For that reason, she intentionally, with the full cognizant awareness that she is fasting, continued to eat food knowing that it breaks her fast. So even though she started off forgetfully eating the pizza, once her mom reminded her, she kept on eating. So at that moment when her mom reminded her, she knew she was fasting. And instead of stopping, she kept on eating the pizza. So if her mom reminded her and then she stopped, then the answer would have been A, the fast is not broken. But here, her mom reminded her and she kept eating. So she had full cognizant awareness that she was fasting and she kept eating. So the fast is broken and it would need a makeup and expiation as well.
Great job, everyone. I see a lot of the right answer. Moving on. Sumayya was feeling really sick whilst fasting, and she was literally afraid for her health. She thought it was going to get much worse. She thought she might have been hospitalized. She thought maybe it could have led to her death or something. And so she decided to take medicine. A, is the fast not broken? B, is the fast broken and needs qada? Or C, the fast needs expiation? Great job. We're getting the right answer. The correct answer is that yes, the fast is broken, but it does not require expiation. Why? The fast is broken because we're assuming she orally took some sort of medicine to alleviate the sickness. And so as a result, a normal substance, the medicine, was entered through a normal passageway, the mouth, and reached into her internal cavity, her stomach. And so all of these things mean the fast is broken. Now she did this for a valid reason, and so it would not require expiation. And she also did it for the betterment of her health and for her safety. So we're not saying that she's sinful. We're not saying that she did anything wrong. Rather, all we are saying that fast was broken and she will need to make it up. But there is no judgment of her doing something wrong or doing the less pious thing. Rather, on the contrary, that if she's doing something for her health to make sure she's able to continue fasting in the future, then she did the right thing. But the correct answer is B.
Just real quick, I see that one person did put C as the answer. The reason why choice C is incorrect is because if someone is sick and afraid for their health, taking medicine is a valid reason to break the fast. So when someone breaks their fast for a valid reason, then that does not break their fast. Or it does break their fast, but they are not, it is a valid reason to break their fast.
In the case of not seeking advice, we're assuming that they took their proper measures. This isn't someone who wakes up with a runny nose and then, they take medicine. This is someone who was actually afraid of, their health. But that's a good point. That's a good thing to mention. We should be cautious about our fast and do our due diligence in ensuring is this something that is necessary.
Okay, next question. Ammar is fasting today, but he's getting really hungry right now. He doesn't have any food, so he decides to eat rocks. Okay, so he's hungry and he eats rocks. So, is the fast broken? Or is it not broken? Is it choice A, the fast is not broken? Is it choice B, the fast is broken and needs makeup? Or is it choice C, the fast is broken, needs makeup, and needs expiation? All right, good. So the correct answer is choice B. The fast is broken and needs makeup. So he's getting really hungry, and so he takes something and he puts it in his mouth and he swallows it into his body cavity. So the fast is broken because if we think back to our fundamental principle number 1, and our fundamental principle number 2 as well, our fundamental principles teach us that for an action to require expiation, it must have both the physical and meaning aspect. Here, we only have the physical. He's taking something, putting it in his mouth, and swallowing it. So the physical aspect is there. But rocks are not food. We do not satiate our hunger with them. We do not get any nutritional value out of them. So since he is eating a non-customary food item, it only breaks the fast and requires qada. There is no expiation required. Again, and this also breaks the fast because of our other fundamental principle. You are taking something, putting it in your mouth, a normal passageway, and it enters into your body cavity.
I think we have 2 more questions. We'll wrap this up. Zainab is fasting today. In the middle of the day, she starts her menstrual cycle. In the middle of the day, she starts her period. So now A, is the fast not broken? B, is the fast broken but needs qada? Or C, the fast is broken and needs expiation?
We've got some jokesters on here. What if it was Pop Rocks? Pop Rocks do, unfortunately, break the fast, and if they do it on purpose, they would require expiation as well.
So good, we're getting the right answer. That the answer is B. So if Zainab started the day fasting and she got her period in the middle of the day, then yes, her fast is broken and it will require qada. But because it's not doing anything intentional, that's why it does not require any expiation.
All right, next question. Abbas brushed his teeth without toothpaste but accidentally swallowed water. He brushed his teeth and accidentally swallowed water. A, B, or C?
again, we mentioned there was a little bit of a difference of opinion on this. So there could be two potential correct answers.
Okay, so the two potential correct answers are both A and B. A and B are both correct. So according to some scholars, if someone does something accidentally, and again, accidentally means that they are cognizant of the fact that they're fasting, but they just do it on accident. Some scholars opine that doing something on accident does not break the fast. However, some scholars opine that doing something on accident does break the fast. Good. Yeah, so some scholars opine that doing something on accident does break the fast and would require a qada. So either A or B is perfectly 100% fine.
Great. And last question for the fasting section. Mas'ud just started his fast. He has a crazy day. He swallowed a bit of cereal when praying Fajr, meaning a little bit was stuck in his teeth when he started fasting, and he swallowed that little bit of cereal while praying Fajr. He went to sleep and had a wet dream. He woke up and he swallowed a ton of phlegm. He just had a really he had a lot of allergies that morning. And then he woke up. Then he went to donate blood because he's just crazy. He went to go donate blood, and when he donated blood, they even gave him a cookie to thank him for donating blood. And he started to eat the cookie, but then he was in the middle of eating the cookie. He stopped because he remembered he was fasting.
So this one you have to really keep track of the facts that are going on here. All right, he started fasting. Yeah, a lot of facts. So he swallowed cereal that was left in his mouth after Fajr.
A small amount.
Small amount. He had a wet dream. He swallowed phlegm. He donated blood. And he started eating a cookie. But then he remembered he was fasting. He is crazy. That is the correct answer. That is actually the correct answer.
Well, the actual correct answer would be A. The actual correct answer would be A. Those of you that got A, there's a lot more difference.
We got a few different answers for this one, but A is the correct answer.
So to walk through it, he swallowed a bit of cereal when praying Fajr. So this is because it doesn't break the fast, because it was a small bit that was left in his mouth. Obviously, if he put in a small bit later, that would break the fast. But this is that he left a small bit that was already there stuck in his teeth. So that would not break the fast. Number two, he went to sleep and had a wet dream. Having a wet dream would not break his fast. He swallowed a ton of phlegm, and phlegm is something that is already in your body, right? You're not purposefully like swallowing it from an outside thing, and so that would not break the fast. And yes, he donated blood, but like we said, donating blood does not break the fast. And lastly, he started to eat the cookie forgetfully, but when he remembered, then he stopped eating the cookie. And so he didn't continue to eat the cookie, nor did he accidentally eat the cookie. Rather, he forgetfully eat the cookie, and thus the fast is not broken. The fast is not broken. Hopefully that was entertaining for everyone. Now let's continue, and we're now going to be going into the section of Taraweeh, and we'll be ending on what we are doing at night. So this would be a little bit of what we do at night, but also spiritual reminders and advice for us, right? There have already been questions: how should I be praying Taraweeh at home? What should I be doing? And so to help alleviate and answer some of those questions. So Taraweeh. First and foremost, Taraweeh is a highly recommended sunnah. It is a highly recommended sunnah for us to be doing in the month of Ramadan. Now the question arises, well, do I do 8 or do I do 20? Do I do 8 or do I do 20? And so before we get to that, and we're not going to do a deep dive into it here, but Taraweeh, as we know it in the same exact structure that we pray it in today, that was not something that in the manner that we do it was done by our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Rather, his actions and within the last year of his life, the prayers that he prayed with the community, that was then established into the 20 units as we know by Umar radiyallahu anhu. And so regardless of that, do whatever your local masjid does. Because, like we mentioned, with determining the month of Ramadan, whether that's through calculation or whether that's through moon sighting, this should not be something that we argue and fight over. There's nothing wrong with having your own personal opinion and doing your due diligence in finding what you think is most correct. There's nothing wrong with that, and that is commendable. But we should not be calling people out and criticizing people for their opinions. So now, if you're at home, do whatever you feel more comfortable with. If you feel more comfortable with 20, by all means go ahead and do 20. If you feel that you've always prayed 8 growing up and your local masjid prays 8, then by all means go ahead and do that as well. And the last 2 points are maybe not too relevant this year because we're not praying behind an imam at a masjid, but I will highlight the last one, and that don't call out and judge those people who come to the masjid only for Ramadan. And again, we're not going to the masjid, but one thing I want to highlight, we're going to hear a lot of people who are sad, man, I wish I could go to the masjid. I wish I could pray Taraweeh. And we might be thinking, you don't come to the masjid anyway. You might be thinking, you only prayed like 2 rak'ahs of Taraweeh. You only come on the 27th night. Again, these are people who are longing for the masjid. These are people who have a love in their heart for prayer, a love in their heart for Allah, a love in their heart to pray together. These are not things we should criticize people for. Rather, we should praise them for having a desire and a love for the beautiful things in our religion, like praying in the masjid and jama'ah. And yes, you can say that you would either do 8 or 20 to fulfill the Taraweeh. Now, we want to be able to do Taraweeh at home because we're not going to be able to do it at the masjid. So these are just 5 things that we can do to set up Taraweeh in our home. Number 1, set up a dedicated prayer space and a prayer time. And we're all at home, everyone is at home together. So ideally, we should be praying all 5 prayers, Fajr, Dhuhr, Asr, Maghrib, Isha, together in Jama'ah at home. And give the adhan and give the iqamah. And have time after for people to make their dhikr and their dua. Make sure you pray the sunnah before and after. And perhaps even you let a family member, give a short talk after Maghrib or after Isha, or you tune into IOK's nightly reflections. Any of these things would be great. And then lastly, pray Taraweeh like we would at a regular masjid. So whether that's 8 that you normally do or 20 like you normally do. And set and estimate a normal portion of Quran that you would normally do, and something that's doable and feasible. So the question of 8 or 20, do what you are most comfortable with and what you feel capable of doing. Now, you're praying Taraweeh at home, what should be recited? And so all of these here are pure recommendations, and they are going to differ from person to person. Because the assumption here is that most people, their households, do not have someone who has memorized the entire Quran. And again, that's not a problem or blameworthy, but that is the reality of the situation. So these are just some recommendations for us to be able to do. So if you're praying 20 at home, then you can recite each surah from the last 20 surahs in every rak'ah. So from وَالضُّحَى وَاللَّيْلِ إِذَا سَجَى to أَلَمْ نَشْرَحْ لَكَ صَدْرَكَ وَالتِّينِ وَالزَّيْتُونِ, and 1, 1, 1, 1, 1 until you get to قُلْ هُوَ اللَّهُ أَحَدٌ قُلْ أَعُوذُ بِرَبِّ الْفَلَقِ and قُلْ أَعُوذُ بِرَبِّ النَّاسِ. So just break up 1 surah per rak'ah. Or maybe you think, hey, I know Ayatul Kursi, I know Aman al-Rasul, I know some parts of Yasin, I know some parts of Ar-Rahman, and some parts of Waqi'ah, and some parts of Mulk, and I know some parts of Juz' Amma. Make your schedule. What can you regularly do every single day? What is something that is doable, sustainable, and enjoyable for you and the family? Maybe you have, someone who's memorized maybe all of Juz Tabarak and Juz Amma, and they feel confident that, hey, every night maybe I can recite maybe half of the Juz, or maybe a quarter of it, or maybe even the whole thing. Or maybe, and this last one, people might think, oh, it's not going to feel like Ramadan. Oh, it's not really Taraweeh. But if this is what you can do, then I would still say to do it. If you were to start the first rak'ah and read قُلْ يَا أَيُّهَا الْكَافِرُونَ, and in the second rak'ah you read قُلْ هُوَ اللَّهُ أَحَدٌ, and then you stand up for the next 2 and you read Surah قُلْ أَعُوذُ بِرَبِّ الْفَلَقِ, and then you read قُلْ أَعُوذُ بِرَبِّ النَّاسِ, and every 4 you do these exact 4. There is nothing wrong with that, if that is what you are able to do. what you can sustain, what you find enjoyable, then that's something you should do. And that's something you should do, and make it. And so even if you repeat every 2 rak'ahs, you repeat every 4 rak'ahs, or every night you're reciting the same thing, that's totally fine. That doesn't take away the taraweeh aspect of it. But now the question is, okay, I just don't want to do that. I just can't do that. So the question is, can I pray holding a copy of the Quran, a mushaf? And so in short, again, there's difference of opinion, but according to most scholars, if you are leading the prayer, or if you're praying by yourself. So if you're leading or praying by yourself, then yes, you are able to hold a copy of the Quran and read from it while you're reading. However, if you are following behind the imam, then it would best that you calmly and quietly listen.
And when we say mushaf, we mean a physical copy of the Quran, like the one that has a binding and pages, and anything that falls under that as well. So a phone, an iPad, anything like that is in that category of mushaf as well. And we'll talk about some more details with electronics in a minute.
And so just some practical tips for this. If you decide, okay, I just can't do the memorization thing, and I don't think I can sustain reading the same surahs every night, okay, then you're going to go with the option where you read from a mushaf. Recommendation number 1, practice a section beforehand. Practice a section beforehand so you're not stuttering and you're not messing up while you're reading. Number 2, because you're reading, you can recite more because you have less of a pressure of needing to memorize or needing to review something. And so maybe you can even do 1 juz every single night. And now the key tips for praying if you're holding a mushaf, excuse me, or if you're holding a phone, is that do not do any kind of acrobatics or gymnastics, with your mushaf. Don't do it where you hold it under your arm and then you put it on the ground and then you pick it up and then you're looking for the page and then you're flipping around and then you kind of put it in your pocket, and then you don't do it where you're putting it on 15 different things and you're almost disrespecting the Quran at that point. Rather, if you're going to do that, have a set place where you're not really touching it, you're not really messing with it, it's there, it's open, and maybe you just occasionally flip the pages between when you make salam. Right? Don't make this a whole kind of some kind of gymnastics acrobatics. But if you choose to use your phone, again, same things apply. Don't be moving it around from your pocket to this pocket to the ground to in your hand. Keep it in one place. Put it on airplane mode. Make sure no notifications are coming up. Make sure nothing but the actual text of the Quran is on your screen. Right? And so that way your prayer will be as sound as it could be, and you don't have any distractions or anything like that. And one reflection when it comes to praying Taraweeh at home, and I know we're getting closer to Maghrib time and people need to pray Asr, so we don't have too much left. Praying Taraweeh at home. One last thing I want to mention in regards to this is look back at the first prayers of our beloved Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed to him, Ya ayyuhal muzammil, qum al-layla illa qalila, نصفه أو انقص منه قليلا أو زد عليه ورتل القرآن ترتيلا. The O you wrapped up in cover one, al-muzammil, stand up in the middle of the night and pray. Pray for most of the night except for a little bit. Pray for half the night, maybe a little bit more or a little bit less, and recite the Quran in a proper tone. Right? Allah told him to pray for a long portion of the night. But how much Quran had been revealed at that point? Surah Al-Fatiha, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Some ayat from Ya Ayyuhal Muzammil, some ayat from Ya Ayyuhal Mudassir, and some ayat from Surah Al-Alaq, Iqra Bismi Rabbika Alladhi Khalaq. That is less than 2 pages of the Quran. That is 2 pages of the Quran at most. Meaning, if you know the last 10 surahs, you know from Alam Tara Kayfa Fa'ala Rabbuka Bi Ashabil Fil, Li'ila Fi Quraysh, أرأيت الذي إنا أعطيناك الكوثر, Surah Al-Kafirun. You know all of these. You would know more than the Prophet ﷺ did at that point. Yet he prayed for hours. How did he do that? He would repeat the ayat. He would repeat them over and over and over again. So if you want to read Surah Al-Duha 10 times, that's totally fine. And he would make his ruku' and his sujood long. He would do extra tasbih. right? So repeat the ayat, and instead of saying Subhana Rabbi al-A'la or Subhana Rabbi al-Azim 1, 3, 5 times, maybe you do it for 9 times or 15 times or 33 times. Try to lengthen that so our taraweeh, even if it's at home, still is filled with life and energy and love. We have a question. Can we pray tahajjud even if we already prayed witr and isha? Because I heard there is no salah after witr. So that is the next slide. Great question. So when it comes to qiyamul layl or tahajjud, this is any prayer at night that is other than isha, taraweeh, or witr. So meaning you start the night by praying isha, then after you would pray your sunnah, then after you would pray your taraweeh, and then at some point later in the night you would pray witr. Now, ideally, witr should be the last thing that's prayed, meaning ideally nothing should be prayed after witr. However, as we'll see in the next slides, that in Ramadan we're able to pray witr together in congregation, in jama'ah, as a household. And so if you want to try and do that, then go ahead and try and do that. But in that scenario, if you were to pray taraweeh together as a family and then pray witr right after, then in that scenario, it would be okay for you to pray any qiyamul layl or tahajjud after that, if you choose to do so. If you can make witr the last, then that would be best. However, it wouldn't necessarily be a problem, or it wouldn't stop you from praying your tahajjud or qiyamul layl. Or if you're worried if you're going to be able to wake up before suhoor and have enough time to pray and eat, and you chose to pray witr before going to sleep, you wake up early to pray some extra qiyamul layl and then have suhoor, that is also fine. Again, the ideal is to make witr the last prayer, but if for whatever reason you're not able to do so and you want to pray qiyamul layl after witr, then that would be acceptable.
Okay, we are almost done. This is our second to last topic. So, witr. Praying witr at home. The reason why we decided to put this in our Fiqh of Fasting, our Ramadan webinar, is because oftentimes we are so used to praying tarawih at the masjid, and when we pray tarawih at the masjid, the imam usually concludes with praying witr as well. This year, this Ramadan, we will be praying tarawih at home, and we will thus be having to pray witr at home as well. And so this is just to clarify some of the different ways to pray witr to ensure that we're all praying witr properly. So before I begin, again, there's another website that we have here, witr.fyi. That is witr.fyi. It's a small website that has some more details on witr, the different ways to pray it, the different du'as, the different supplications that you can make in witr, etc. So, witr has a unique status in Ramadan. And witr in Ramadan is special because in the month of Ramadan, it is encouraged to pray witr in jama'ah. Throughout the entire year, witr is something that we do on our own, by ourselves, just like sunnah prayers, just like nafil prayers, etc. It's something that a person does on their own. However, during the month of Ramadan, witr has this unique, new, special opportunity to be prayed in jama'ah, in a congregation. So this is something that we should all take advantage of. It's only 1 month that we'll be able to do this unique type of witr, where we pray it in a group, where we pray it with other people. So when we're in the month of Ramadan, definitely try, just as you are very keen and earnest to make sure that you pray tarawih with your family every night, try to make sure you also pray witr in congregation as well if you are praying in a household with other members. One thing that we think about witr at the masjid with the imam is that oftentimes we're so used to hearing those famous long du'as during witr time. And that is something that people think is a quintessential aspect of witr. But the fact witr requires just some dua. It does not need to be long and beautiful and nice and recited with a nice tone and all that. If you're worried that you don't know a long, beautiful dua like what you might be used to hearing at the masjid or at the haram, that is completely fine. You can just try your best to memorize 1 or 2 short supplications to say during witr, even if it's as something as short and simple as رَبَّنَا آتِنَا فِي الدُّنْيَا حَسَنَةً وَفِي الْآخِرَةِ حَسَنَةً وَقِنَا عَذَابَ النَّارِ. Even something as simple and short as that, that is sufficient and fine to be said during witr. When you do witr, as we'll discuss in the next slides, when you get to the dua portion, all that is required is some type of dua, whatever it might be. It doesn't have to be long, it doesn't have to be any specific length. Any length is fine. And if you have other du'as that you would like to say afterwards, whether it's in English or your native tongue, whatever it might be, those can all be said after the prayer. And so this brings us to the next point. Can we make du'a in witr in any language other than Arabic? So if you are in the actual witr prayer itself, meaning you are standing up facing the qibla and you're doing the salah, then you should limit your statements to just Arabic, to just what is transmitted to us from the Quran and from the Sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. However, you can think non-Arabic supplications in your head. If you want to say something in English or in Urdu, whatever it might be, you can say it in your head and think it, but do not verbalize it as a part of your witr dua. And of course, as always, after the prayer is over, after you say salam on both sides, then you can spend as long as you want making dua in any language afterwards. So there are a couple of different options on how to pray witr. The only reason we're explaining this in a little bit more detail is because for some people, this might be our first time praying witr by ourselves at home without an imam. So go with whatever you're used to and whatever you're comfortable with, whatever you've been doing for the however long you've been praying witr and tarawih, etc. But these are just a couple of examples. We'll go through two different ways, and the second way has a subsection. So how do we pray witr? Option A, you pray 3 units consecutively, sitting for tashahhud after the second unit without any salam. So similar to how we would pray Maghrib prayer. We pray 1 unit, we pray 2 units, and then after unit number 2, we sit down for tashahhud, and then we get back up. In that third unit, we recite Surah Al-Fatiha and any other surah, and then while we are still standing, we say Allahu Akbar, we raise our hands to our ears, and then we hold them back on our chest again, and then we proceed to silently make dua with our hands folded, whatever dua that is. And once the dua is done, we say Allahu Akbar, go into ruku' and finish the salah normally, as any other rak'ah might be. So some tips, again, try to memorize one short dua to say in the witr prayer, and other longer duas, you can read them afterwards, after the prayer is done. Option B on how to pray witr. Starting similarly, you pray 3 units consecutively, sitting for tashahhud after the second unit without salam. So it starts out the same way. So you do pray unit number 1, you do unit number 2, you sit down for tashahhud, and then you get back up. You recite Surah Al-Fatiha and any other surah, and then you go into ruku', Subhan Rabbiyal Azim, and then you get back up from ruku', say Rabbana lak Sami' Allahu liman hamida, Rabbana lakal hamd, and then you hold your hands up in dua position. And then you make your dua with your hands up in dua position. And then after the dua, you say Allahu Akbar, go into sajda, and then finish your salah as you usually would. Option B has a subsection. If you look at where the asterisk is, you can choose to make salam after the second unit. And this is something that we see oftentimes in the masajid here in SoCal. So you can choose to, again, pray unit number 1, pray unit number 2, sit for tashahhud, and then make salam on both sides. Get up, say, raise your hand, say Allahu Akbar, and then start at where the first bullet point is in unit number 3. Recite Fatiha, recite another surah, go into ruku', and then the rest of it.
Sheikh Ahmed Ibn Aslam Billu also told me that if you would like, again, there's many different ways to pray witr, but if you choose to do the 3 in a row, you can also choose to not sit in tashahhud in the second rak'ah, meaning when you go into sajda in the second, then you just come right back up into your third rak'ah without sitting there. Again, there's lots and lots and lots of different ways. We've just highlighted 2 or 3 of the common ones without going into too much detail, but just so everyone has a documented version of something they have probably prayed at a masjid.
Okay, and this brings us to our last topic for our webinar, which is i'tikaf. So i'tikaf, which is known as the spiritual retreat, this year is going to be very interesting because we are going to be prevented from going to the masajid. The masajid will be closed. So doing a proper complete, fully 100% valid i'tikaf is something that only women will have the opportunity to do this year. Men, for their i'tikaf to be complete, proper, valid 100%, one of the conditions is that it must be done in what is legally considered a masjid. We won't go into too many details on what is legally considered a masjid for now, but the basic idea here is that it must be done in a masjid. For i'tikaf to be 100% for men, it must be done in a masjid. For women, however, i'tikaf is valid both at a masjid or at home. So this year, since we are in this unique situation and unique experience in which we do not have access to the masajid, right? One of the conditions for a i'tikaf to be 100% valid for men is missing. It's simply not there. So if we just go straight down to the asterisk for 1 second, even though we are in this unique situation, nobody wants to be in this situation. It's out of our control. It's not our fault that all the masajid are closed. So men, they may perform some sort of spiritual seclusion at home with the intention of fulfilling the sunnah i'tikaf. And Allah knows best. Perhaps it will fulfill the sunnah. Perhaps it will be counted as a nafil. But regardless, they will be rewarded for their worship. For whatever worship that they do in seclusion, they will be rewarded for doing so. But there is maybe some question in regards to whether it will count as a valid i'tikaf. But for women, i'tikaf is going to be valid at home. So some general rulings and etiquettes for i'tikaf. It is a highly, highly emphasized sunnah. So women, if we are able to do it, we should definitely try our best. If we have never done it before, make this the year that we actually do it. It's a highly emphasized sunnah, and we have such a unique opportunity this year to be at home. So definitely take advantage of this and view it as something positive, something like a unique opportunity that we are presented with. I'tikaf begins with Maghrib on the 20th night. So on the 20th night of Ramadan, after Maghrib, this is when the spiritual retreat begins. This is when I'tikaf begins. For the next 10 nights, we will be in the Mu'takaf. The Mu'takaf is the place where the I'tikaf is performed. And the Mu'takaf should be one single designated area within the home. We shouldn't say that our entire house is going to be our Mu'takaf. Rather, we should say a specific area within the home, whether it's a prayer room or a prayer area, that should be designated as the place that I'm going to do my i'tikaf in. And an etiquette of i'tikaf is that we do not leave that area unless for a necessary action, such as going to the restroom, getting food, any other necessity that might come up. We should not leave our mu'takaf, our designated prayer area, unless there are necessary reasons to do so. However, we shouldn't stay silent. We aren't expected to be in straight dhikr and dua in Quran for 24 hours. That is not what's expected at all. And not even to be doing only dhikr Quran only. We can talk with other people. We can catch up with our family. We can do other things as long as we are not getting so distracted and so drawn away and so pulled away from our worship. So definitely don't stay silent. Talk to other people. Even while you're doing i'tikaf.
Just a beautiful point on that in staying silent. When the Prophet ﷺ would do i'tikaf, he would have each and every single one of his 9 wives come and visit him in his tent, just to catch up on the day, how's everything going, and doing so. Our Prophet ﷺ would meet with all of his wives in every day of i'tikaf, right? And that should tell us about the status of i'tikaf and also how he would interact with his family members, even in his most devout and secluded times.
And the last point here is one of the things that is not allowed during i'tikaf for married individuals is any intercourse or anything less than intercourse, any foreplay, that will invalidate the retreat. So that is one of the things that will cancel out the i'tikaf and invalidate it.
So alhamdulillah, everyone, thank you for attending. We're now going to open it up for Q&A. If anyone has any questions or anything like that, we are here to answer.
Sorry, there are these. Oh, there we go.
Okay. There we go.
Okay.
The technology. we'll just be here hanging out. If you have any questions in the next few minutes, want to keep everyone too long because Maghrib is coming in soon, and some of us have not prayed Asr Salah yet. But we will be here looking at you or looking at the camera. We hope everyone benefited, inshallah. Should we not keep it? Also, to enhance reach to all of you, we know if you are watching, every single day, every single night. How did you like the quiz portion where we had questions and you were able to pick A, B, and C and put in your answers in the chat? Was that something you all enjoyed? Was that beneficial? You can put that in the chat. Also, we have some questions here. Can women do i'tikaf for a few hours every day? So can they do i'tikaf for a few hours every day? Oh, that would still be an i'tikaf. The entire portion of the i'tikaf, if you were to do it for all 10 days, would be from the night of the 20th until Eid. However, if someone was to choose to do one day, I'm only going to do a few hours, that would still count. That would still count as an i'tikaf, and that is still, if someone can do it, then they should still do it.
Yeah, so the thing with i'tikaf being the last of Ramadan, this is something that the Prophet ﷺ specifically would do. So if we wanted to fulfill the sunnah of i'tikaf in the high, which is how the Prophet ﷺ did it, then it would be the last 10 nights. However, it doesn't need to be the full thing to count i'tikaf. I'tikaf is any spiritual illusion for no matter how long it is. And just a side point, this is something that can be done outside of Ramadan as well. Anytime you go to the masjid can be considered i'tikaf. Anytime you decide to just sit down and do some dhikr and dua could be considered i'tikaf as well. So to answer your question, in sum, yes, you can do i'tikaf for a few hours every day, or however many days you can.
And there is another question. For Taraweeh, is the minimum 8 raka'at? Yes, so Taraweeh we would divide up as two major camps of how Taraweeh in terms of number. And so one group of scholars would say it's 8 raka'at, and another would say it's 20. And we're not going to get into the 36, but whatever. There are other opinions as well. But for right now, what we know, 8 or 20. So you could say, in a sense, 8 would be the minimum, looking at it in one way. So there's another question. Making more than one intention for a makeup fast. So the scenario would be someone they missed, let's say, 3 days of fasting in Ramadan. They missed 3 days of fasting in Ramadan, so they have to make up 3 days. So they have a few things that they can do. They can make up those 3 days on any random day. That's option A. But if they want to stack up those fasts, so let's say they want to stack it with a Monday and a Thursday and a Monday. So they would stack it on a Monday and a Thursday and a Monday, which are sunnah days to fast. So they're able to stack those 3 makeup fasts with sunnah fasts. Or for example, if someone wanted to fast on the day of Ashura, on the day of Arafah, and a Monday or a Thursday or something like that, then they would say, I am fasting today for the sake of Ashura and to make up my fast. Or I'm fasting today for the sake of Arafah and for my makeup fast. Or I'm fasting today for a Monday or for a Thursday and for a makeup fast. And just another general thing, sometimes people aren't necessarily aware, but when we mentioned in the slide the 3 white days, the 3 white days is where the Prophet ﷺ said, whoever fasts the 3 white days of every month, meaning the 13th, the 14th, and the 15th, and they do that for every month, it will be like they fasted the entire year. It will be like they fasted the entire year. So a great blessing for us if we're able to add on the 13th, 14th, and 15th of every month to fast those days if we're able. Hopefully that answered the question. Any last final questions? What's the next webinar topic that you are planning on doing? Tomorrow, at the same time, same place, Sheikh Zubayr will be doing the fiqh of zakah. I know someone asked who are we going to be giving our zakah to in these troubling times? Tomorrow, Sheikh Farhan will be going through the rules of zakah. So whether do I have to pay on my 401k? Do I have to pay on stocks? Do I have what do I do if I have a mortgage? What do I do if I have a loan? What do I do if someone owes me money? All of these different scenarios. We'll be covering that tomorrow, and we'll be covering the rules of fasting of zakah tomorrow. I think we'll just give it another minute. If there's any questions, we'll answer. As of now, I'm not sure if we are, yes, so 13th, 14th, and 15th of the Islamic calendar, that is correct. Will we be doing a Laylatul Qadr webinar? Sure, we can do a Laylatul Qadr webinar.
There's not one currently scheduled as of now, if that answers your question.
Just put it on the IOK Facebook page, and we'll try to get that content out there for you. Anything you want IOK to do, we are here for you. We are Chess. We're here to serve you. We're here to provide for you, whether that's emotional support, whether that's spiritual support and care, whether that's Islamic knowledge. That's what we are here to provide for you. Can we get Shawwal in a whole month? I'm not sure what.
I don't think we understand the question. Can we get Shawwal in whole month? If you can clarify what that means, what is being said with that comment?
If you want to fast the whole month of Shawwal, you can do so. Just don't fast on the day of Eid, which is the 1st of Shawwal. If you want to make up all of your fast of Ramadan in the month of Shawwal, that would be totally fine. If you want to stack your Ramadan fast with all the 6 days of Shawwal, that would also be fine.
During i'tikaf, am I able to leave the room to prepare for the family? Yes, definitely, most certainly, of course. When you are doing i'tikaf, you can leave your area of doing i'tikaf for any reason that is necessary and has a good purpose for it. So if you're going to prepare meals for your family, if you're going outside to get the mail, if you're going to pick up groceries, all of those would be fine and perfectly valid reasons to leave your mu'takaf.
One thing we will say here is because other people are in the home and other people can do some of the other things, right? For example, someone else can maybe go and get the mail, someone go and get the groceries. So in that case, if someone else is able to do it, that would be ideal for the sisters that are doing i'tikaf at home. Anything that doesn't fall on your shoulders alone, then you can do that. If anything can be handed off to someone else, then that would be easy. If anyone else in the household can, do the dishes or clean up or handle anything else that's outside of your mu'takaf, that would be the best thing to do. Yes. So the question is, the 6 fasts of Shawwal, you can do them at any point throughout the entire month of Shawwal. Obviously, skip the first day, which is Eid. We're not allowed to fast on the day of Eid at all whatsoever. No exemptions, no questions. So from the 2nd day of Shawwal until the 29th or 30th day of Shawwal, any combination of 6 days are totally doable. So if you want to do 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, that's fine. If you want to do 2 and then 7 and then 9 and then 20, 21, and then 29, that is also fine. Any combination, it doesn't have to be in order, it doesn't have to be any kind of consecutive order. It just has to be within the month of Shawwal. I think that's good. It's 6:50. We don't want to leave people too close to Maghrib time. Jazakumullahu khairan to all of you for coming.
If you do have any other questions, I believe you can still put comments on this video. So if you want to ask other questions, you can comment on this video and then we can type out a response after we end.
And again, we appreciate all of you for coming out. May Allah reward you for spending time to learn about His religion, spending time to learn about how to spending time to learn how to pray Taraweeh better at home. May Allah make it easy for us to deal in these tough times. May Allah allow us to reach Ramadan happily, easily, healthily, with full iman. May Allah allow us to have the best Ramadan we've ever had. May Allah allow us to have the best Ramadan that we've ever had, and make every Ramadan that follows even better. And may Allah give us the true taste of Iman in this month, the true beautiful taste of Quran, and the taste of loving Allah and having Allah love us in this beautiful month of Ramadan. May Allah allow us to be happy and content and full of Iman. Thank you all for coming. Subhanallahi wa bihamdihi, subhanallahi al-azim, subhanakallahumma bihamdik. How completely far from any form of imperfection you are, O Allah. All the praise and thanks belongs to you. Nashhadu an la ilaha illa ant. There's nothing worthy of our worship or devotion except for you. Nastaghfiruka. We seek your forgiveness. Wa natubu ilayk. Repentance. Wa sallallahu ala khayri khalqihi Muhammad wa alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. وَعَهُمْ بِإِحْسَانٍ إِلَى يَوْمِ الدِّينِ اللَّهُمَّ اجْعَلْنَا مِنْهُمْ. And O Allah, we end by asking you to bless, to protect, to honor, and to compliment our beloved Prophet, our messenger, our teacher, our role model, Muhammad Rasulullah, his family, his friends, his companions, and everyone that follows them until the end of time. O Allah, make us from those people